Okay, what I want to do is just let you know I got all the capacitors replaced on this radio, this RCA 261, and just start up here real quick. These are the electrolytic capacitors here, and I used a good brand. I used a Sprague Atom, and I think this one's also a Sprague or a Mallory. So I used the best ones I could get because the Chinese ones I heard weren't really that good. You know, they're a lot smaller, but I mean, Sprague is like a name that's been around forever, and same with Mallory. So I recommend get really good electrolytic capacitors. Don't get like El Cheapo brand, because they're only a couple bucks. And what I did was I soldered a terminal strip on here to this post on the old electrolytic capacitor, and the lug that's soldered to here I'm not using. The other ones that are free, I soldered the capacitor to use them for soldering lugs. And I did that because these electrolytics are isolated with just a very thin washer here from the chassis. It's not grounded to the chassis. It's like isolated with a little washer. So if that ever shorted out, it's going to short out through the capacitor that's already shorted and short out your electronics if you use the lug on top for a soldering post. So don't do that. Use a terminal strip that you just solder to, then solder to the lugs that aren't soldered to that, if that makes any sense. So you can see the capacitors I replaced here and there, and actually there's a whole bag of them here, and there's like, oops, a couple pounds of capacitors I did. See, there's a whole bunch of them there, and most all of them were bad, and there was a couple ones that weren't too bad. There was let me take one out of here. Let's show you which ones were still good, which is interesting. The ones that look like this, they look like a paper capacitor, but I think they're really a mica capacitor because it's supposed to be 2850 microfarads. And when I measured it on the biggest scale of the ohm meter, it came out good. Like the meter deflected down and it went all the way up to infinity. So I think it was still good, which isn't bad for a 70-year-old part. But I replaced those with the modern equivalent mica capacitors. And a couple problems that I ran into, I'll do real quick, is that they had this capacitor in, like about there, a 0.05 microfarad, and it was really supposed to be 2850 microfarads. So I used the mica capacitors here, and I had to use a 2500 microfarad and a 350 microfarad to put them in parallel to get the right capacitance for this oscillator circuit. So at least now it has the right capacitor in and not a 0.05 paper capacitor, which is really bad. Whoever put that in was really not too sharp. And I found out that the capacitors from Solar Corporation are really bad. They were all really shorted out. So anyway, let's see, what else did I want to say? Oh yeah, real quick, I replaced a shielded wire here. I put some heat shrink on the end here, and the shielded wire goes all the way to the front to the high frequency tone control right here. And that bad boy has a capacitor here. Here it is. And I used the old capacitor I had in my toolbox from an old point ignition system from a car. And I figured out that's about 0.05 microfarad. And the one they had in there looked like this. It's supposed to be 0.02 microfarad, but this is shorted out. Oops. That's shorted out. So I used the car capacitor from the ignition points there and soldered it as it should have been to to this high frequency tone control. So hopefully that all works there. So I was lucky I still had it. Lucky I didn't throw that away, because like I haven't adjusted points on a car for like probably 20 years now. So that's about it with that. So all I need now is to get the current limiter device, the CL80, that goes up to 3 amps. I got to wire that in series with the input of the power transformer. Here's the main switch here. And then I got some retro silk covered brown wire, so it'll look really nice once I get that all wired in. Then I can put this radio aside and work on the speaker. And the speaker's going to need some work to it, like it needs to have a audio transformer hooked to the speaker, and I got to figure out the field coil, because the field coil didn't have enough resistance on this new speaker I got from eBay. So I got to add some resistance or maybe a filter choke to that to get it up to the right resistance like the radio should have. So tomorrow I'm going to work on the speaker, get that all done, and maybe by Friday or something I could get it all ready on the test bench to test out. And one more thing here, the resistors here. Like these resistors here on this resistor board, I replaced 4 of them, and the 5th one was kind of okay. The 5th one was supposed to be 15K, but it goes to the volume control, and maybe it's not that critical, and it ended up being 13K when I measured it, so I said that was close enough. But I found that resistors that were higher in value, like if it was like 1 meg, it ended up to be like really 2 meg. And if it was like supposed to be a 2 meg resistor, I measure it being like about 4 meg. So it was like the higher the resistor was supposed to be, the more out of tolerance it was. And the lower resistors, like these are 270 ohms. And they measured to be about 240 ohms. They were pretty close to what they were supposed to be. And these old resistors, it's like the body is like the first digit. So the body was a 2. And the little dot, the purple dot, is for violet for 7. And then you have the multiplier as that little dot in the middle here. Doesn't show up good. That's the multiplier. So it comes out to be 270, and that's how I did the old scheme on those old resistors. But they seem to be pretty good. So anyway, that's about it. So this thing's completely recapped. It's probably like about 3 pounds lighter now since I got all the old caps here in the bag, and the new caps are a lot more lighter and more compact. And some of the old capacitors are filled with tar too, so it kind of makes them kind of heavy. So there you go. So that's it. And then the next video I'll have it all on a bench hopefully, and ready to test. So take it easy, folks. Bye. Have a great day.